we heard about sensors, we heard about biomedical applications, a lot of, let's say, hands-on work in the lab, but there need also people who can handle the data which are produced from all of this, and to give a glimpse on what is possible. I think Thomas Exner, the Chief Scientific Officer of 7+9, will now present to us his organization on the one hand, also one of the very, very new members. I could also say young members, maybe that's also fitting. We do have a project together, it's the Nano Commons at the moment, which is in the data field, which is also nice to see that also people from already ongoing projects join BNN. And yeah, with this, Thomas, I'd like to hand over to you. Looking forward to your presentations. And if there are questions, please put them into the chat. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andreas, for this nice introduction and also giving me the chance to present here. You will see that we are quite young, and that's not me personally, but that's our company, therefore, and also what the Slovenia German connection is here. We were founded more or less exactly 1 year ago, and then we had this year, start of this year, a German part, which I'm more or less located. It's close to Basel, but our headquarters is in a very small city in Slovenia. Just to have that as a, that you know where I am actually are, and how to contact me and why we have 2 companies, because you have to put that into relation to the next slide, because that is who we are. We are 3 people trying to do some work together, very diverse people from their background, and just to put that into relationship to the other SME, which we had quite, or the previous talk, there are quite different what an SME might be. And as I said, we are young as an SME, we are in startup, and we are still a very small team and probably plan to stay like that. What are we doing? And now it becomes a little bit more complex. Andreas mentioned data, and this is what we are at the moment concentrating on. But what I call that, what we are doing, not data management or something like that, but I talk about data stewardship or data shepherding, and our business is something like a solution-driven, software-driven consultancy. What all that means, I hope I can give you a glimpse on in this talk. We are, as I said, a small team, but we are personally not that young. This is when you see about this 70 years of expertise, all the 3 of us. But there you see that we have clearly the background from data warehousing. That is more our CEO, Joch, and then Maya, web applications, web design, data collection, all that. And then my role is more coming in is in the data modeling and simulation, and also in the areas we are looking at. Yeah, we are coming from life science, general life science, drug design, are now more in this toxicology area, and then also nanotoxicology. Yeah, therefore we are now relatively specific, but in principle, what we are trying to do can be very broad. This is our history, and it's clear that it cannot be our history because we are a year old. But we were together as a team in another company, also a relatively small one in Basel. This is also why I live close to Basel. Edelweiss Connect, perhaps some of you heard about it or know him. And we were there involved in a lot of EU research projects. And our new company is in principle also aiming in this direction, that we are supporting research consortia in these projects, in large projects. And what we did is relatively broad also in the respect of the topics or the areas we were working in. Yeah, and this is the main part. You don't have to look at all the details, but the main part is that we were looking at, or we were included in research and innovation proposals, projects, and this is what you normally think, I would say, EU projects are. But our part, I see, because we are always in this infrastructure part of the project, we also are now more and more looking into these infrastructure projects, and NanoCom, and Andreas already mentioned, is one of these infrastructure projects, and we had the previous one, OpenRiskNet, which was then really an only infrastructure in silico computer-based infrastructure. Again, our topics are mainly driven at the moment in this area of materials, risk assessment, nanomaterials. Then the new things will definitely come now with Horizon Europe, microplastics, and then the smart materials. Yeah, we are not calling them nanomaterials anymore, but we are now going into these advanced, innovative, and smart materials. Risk governance in general, how to then do risk assessment on these new materials, safe by design, how to bring these safety aspects very early into the design process, but then also looking into other areas like personal medicine, because data is everywhere. What we are really doing is having these 3 focus areas, and now we'll quickly present. The first thing is this data lifecycle, yeah, and I also go into more detail what that means. But starting with this more standard data management, let's call it standard data management, yeah, that you have data and you want to share it, or you have to share it because that is a requirement from the EU projects you are working in, and therefore we need some kind of data warehouses or databases. And here we are now looking really at defining how then the data should look in these data warehouses. What are the data models to structure this data, but also exchange formats. Yeah, how can you then upload or prepare your data and then upload it? Yeah, then the business logic behind the data warehouse. How do you find things? What search algorithm you need? But also then into the more scientific thing. What is the validation? How can we validate the uploaded data set, that they are really correct, that the people report things where they should report them, and so on and so on. And then we link that all together with the input tools and the analysis. Yeah, therefore, we really try to, we are not really looking at the data warehouse itself. We mainly do that with partners. We are looking in how does data come in, how can it be structured that it can be used then in the best possible way. This then also brings us to this new approach. It's probably not new, perhaps that is a little bit far reaching, but just to say, okay, in principle, if you always think about this sharing, then we actually start too late. You are using your data, you're preparing your data for a reason, and therefore you want to use it. And if you then already prepare that in a stage where then you can use it, but you can also easily share it with others, then you have in principle two goals at the same time, or 2 objectives solved at the same time. Yeah, and there we need other things than just data warehouses. We really have to think about these data transfer formats, yeah, and how they can be prepared, how you can do that in the first thing. Yeah, and then we come back to the data lifecycle I already mentioned. Everyone is in principle responsible for the data, for the quality of the data. Yeah, therefore, we have to bring in all these stakeholders and make them work, but we also then have to support them correctly. Yeah, and this is again to this picture, all these people here, the data creators, who design the study, then do the work, then the data analysts and data curators who then prepare the data also in an electronic form, the data managers, and all these come together, and they are all somehow in charge of preparing the data at that point of time. Yeah, and therefore we have also this list. I also don't go into all the details, but in principle, when the color coding should show a little bit this standard idea. Yeah, the creator is responsible for the objectives, then the design of the approach and the collection, but then he hands that over, or she hands that over to the analyst doing the thing. But I really believe that this is not the way it should be. Yeah, the creator should be responsibility for the data throughout the whole step. Yeah, he doesn't or she doesn't have to do it all. Yeah, but they should be involved in these steps. Yeah, in the annotation, in the quality control, in the validation that the results are really making sense, and so on. And to bring all these people together, there the shepherd comes in. Yeah, because he tries to make these people understand each other. We often have problems that creators or data experimentalists talk to database managers, and they don't even understand what they are talking about. Yeah, but this shepherd also should then develop ideas on what new tools should go in. Yeah, and this is what we are doing at the moment, very quickly only. Yeah, that we try to split this the whole study in many pieces, and try to cover these pieces alone. Yeah, you can start here with a starting material, then you do something with it, then you get something out of that, and then you follow your study design already at the beginning, and then you can look at what information you need. Yeah, if you have this graphite oxide, for example, how do I have to characterize it, that I know what it is? And then each of these characterization steps has an experiment behind, which prepares sample measurements and so on, and then produces data at the point of time. Yeah, and all these different steps can now be linked to data. And I show that to scare you a little bit, but it's just, okay, there is some kind of file behind that. But to, for example, present here this protocol, but because it is something separate, we can then also provide very nice tooling for that. And this is what we did for Race Nano at one point of time, where you really say, okay, I can now cover that in a web form to exactly describe what, or guide the user through all these steps. And we have the data already in an annotated structured form, which we can use in many different steps. Yeah, and this then goes into these kind of concepts. I like these complex things, and I know that everyone other hates them, but I just try to put that then into the relationship to ontology annotation, for example, or how people should get their data in, how we can create web interfaces for that, and then how all the data from these different sources come together and lead to a knowledge platform where you more or less get everything you want to see. That was the first one. The second and third are much shorter. I just already mentioned knowledge bases. Yeah, you also have then to present all these things together, and we're working there on concepts on how you present data but linked to their protocols, to their study designs, but then also to the results and the conclusions or knowledge you can form of that. There are many different things needed, and you also have to bring then all these two tools together, and therefore we are thinking about more advanced business models for these kind of common activities. Yeah, the first thing is these knowledge management, not data management anymore, but now we look at many other things. And then you need some website or web design to just build that, collect all these things and make them available in a way. Then also application interfaces come in where software is talking to each other. But then you can also have here again the data collection where mobile applications, when you look at the sensors which were just discussed here, then you have these mobile applications, and this data has to be coming into this as well. Finally, just very shortly on this business model, what we see often in these projects is that we have many people there doing great stuff, and the main outcome of this project is that they produce something together. They bring in all their tools and have something which is much better than each individual. But then the project ends and this all falls apart very quickly. And therefore we are thinking here about this proactive multi-stakeholder management, that we at the end have some kind of a business model where academics and industry can work together to keep this thing alive, which they created through this in the project. This is the last one. Very, very quickly, we also then organize these cross-partner or cross-initiative communication, a little bit like BNN, but really trying to bring people together on a more flexible form. We are not trying to have a membership in something, but we just say, okay, here are different projects working together. Can we bring them together to exchange knowledge that everyone can profit from that? And this is in the project, but then it's also going to these larger initiatives like Elixir, EOSC, if you didn't heard about that, but it doesn't really matter, but just trying to fit a project into their underlying or their surroundings, their neighborhood. That's more or less it. Why consultancy, or whom to consult? Yeah, you probably heard already that we mainly focus on research and innovation consortia, because there I think we can be a support for doing these data-related things, knowledge-related things. Then we have these infrastructure projects where we are more taking a leading role. But it also goes down to then individual SMEs or organizations, because all these things also make sense in a smaller setup. Because when you talk to your colleagues and you want to share data with your colleagues, these make already sense. And they also try to support, for example, these organizational repositories where universities are now starting to collect all their research in a common place. That's it. I hope it was not too long. I thank you for your attention, and if you see something you are interested in, I'm happy to discuss that.